Good evening and welcome to the April 3rd meeting of the Culpeper County School Board. Ms. Jameson, all members are present tonight. We'd ask that everyone please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We will now have our presentation and a recognition for our employees' years of service, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 45 plus. Ms. Metzger, yes. Ms. Smith, would you please assist Ms. Metzger? Thank you.
Good evening. A very exciting part of our year is recognizing our employees for their years of service with the division. Employees are typically recognized at the school level in 5-year increments. We have pins, we have certificates, and a small gift for our employees who meet those increments. So tonight, though, we have people who have met the 30 years of experience, 35, and 45 years of service. So we want to honor them tonight. So I'd like to have them come forth. Ms. Smith has a pin, a certificate, a gift for them, and then we can get a photo together. Okay, so we're going to start with 30 years of service. Mr. Ludwell Brown, we're going to start. How did he even know? He is the very first one. Mr. Brown, come on up.
That's a long journey.
30 years of service. We thank you. Mr. Brown teaches social studies, 6th grade at Culpeper Middle School. So we want to thank you.
Thank you.
No, sit right over here if you would. We've got to get a photo. We also have 2 other employees who are not present this evening, but I wanted to make sure I recognize them. From Emerald Hill, Ms. Marianne Stringfellow. She is 30 years of service. She is a preschool paraeducator. Also, we have Karen Brown, who's a paraeducator at Sycamore Park. So congratulations to both of them. Now, with 35 years of service, our first person on the list is Ms. Rhonda Dove. Rhonda is the food service manager at Emerald Hill. She's been at Emerald Hill, gosh, she was there when I was there a long time ago. So she's been around, and we are very excited to honor you with 35 years of service. Ms. Wanda Jenkins. Wanda drives bus 89. Come on up. Of course you may bring her. Look at her, she's delighted. Thank you for coming. Would you like to have the gift? Oh, there you go. 35 years driving a bus. God bless you. Well, we thank you. I also have one other person, one of our preschool special education teachers who is at our Galbraith Marshall building, Miss Kathy McInich, but she couldn't be here this evening. And with 45 years of service, driving bus number 7, Miss Dottie. Also, I spent time with her at Emerald Hill. 45 years. We thank you for every day. Actually, 47? Okay. You only get 45. They don't make a 47, but that's okay. We're going to give you 45. So we'd love for you to get a photo. Betsy, would you like to get in the photo? And Miss Hoover?
Good job.
Thank you all. Thank you, members of the board, for allowing me the opportunity this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Metzger, and thank you to all of our employees for all of their service. We will now move on to our student advisory group. Riley Lynn Corbin from Eastern View High School, a freshman, will give us a report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Riley Corbin. I'm a 9th grader at Eastern View High School, and I'm a member of the SSAG. I wanted to start off by saying how much I love being a part of the SSAG. It allows me to be involved in the school, and it gives us the opportunity to be heard and make changes. In our last meeting, we got the results for the Youth Risk Behavior Forum, and we went over the results for it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was in the feelings of safety at school category, and it was bullying. Question 24. In 2017, 25.8% of students answered yes, that they had been bullied in person at school. However, this number had a 16% decrease in 2022, which was a good thing. But when you go to question 25, electronically bullied in the last 12 months, that number had a 17.6 increase. In 2022. I feel like this number is probably going to continue to increase due to popularity of social media and phones. It seems like in the last 5 years, younger kids, even at the elementary school age, are getting phones and having social media, even though if the maturity isn't really there, they're not ready for it. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the Mystic Health category, question 83. Got 8 or more hours of sleep on school nights with a 28.2% decrease. Only 25.3% of students had answered yes, that they had gotten 8 or more hours of sleep. And a lot of this issue has to do with COVID, and only recently getting out of that. I think that one of the main issues is when COVID hit everybody, it was completely virtual and so sudden with no plan or preparation. Everyone was kind of just thrown into it. Which wasn't anybody's fault. However, when that happened, that daily routine that everybody had was broken, and nobody had a plan. And even if they were on that schedule for a while, it kind of just ended over the next 2 years. It's going to take time for everybody to get back on that routine because we're just now, mostly everybody's not virtual anymore. Most of the students are in person. The last thing that I wanted to go over was in the teen mental health category, question 26. Experienced extreme anxiety. 65.1% of students had answered yes. There are many different types of things that cause anxiety, but I think a major stressor in kids' lives in school is some way, shape, or form, school can be stressful. For example, homework. Homework is so stressful for students, especially with the upperclassmen, where they tend to have such an unbearable amount every night. Some students have a large amount of homework to do every night, which makes it so hard to have a social life or any type of free time, especially if you participate in extracurricular activities or sports. And that is all I have for today. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Riley. Come back. Riley, come on back. There may be questions. No, that's okay. Inquiring minds want to know. Does anyone have a comment or a question for Riley? Ms. Smith, do you have anything?
what do you think with the phones and social media, what do you think we should do in schools? Do you think we should limit the use in the schools?
I do, because it's like, I feel like when you're distracted on a phone all day, it's, no matter what's going on the phone, you're gonna be focused on that. If something happens, or if there's even a fight, for, let's say, you're seeing that video go around or whatever, and it's everybody's focused on that. They're not focused on their work. And yes, the phones are limited in school. They're not supposed to be, but there are teachers that just don't care. I mean, I've had teachers that are just kind of, you know, okay, well, you're done with your work, just go ahead. Or I've had teachers also that just say, you know, I don't care. I mean,
As long as you get your work done.
right, yeah. So I think.
Other question, does he feed you well? Does he feed you all well in your meetings? Does he feed you all, give you all snacks and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking up.
Are there any other questions or comments for Riley?
Just real quick. First of all, I love your adoring fans behind you. That's pretty great. And second of all, when you mentioned the homework policy, did you guys spend any time, or homework, did you spend any time talking about our homework policy or
Yes,
anything?
we did. We've spent a lot of meetings actually going over it, like the first majority of the meetings were about the homework policy and how we could find a way to change it.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'm glad we have your input as we think about that. Thank you. You did a great job tonight.
Thank you very much.
I had one more question. Are you
Oh.
involved in any extracurricular activities?
I'm on a few, no sports currently, but I just finished Cinderella, so we
Oh,
had
very
that
good.
production.
That was
so,
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have any delegations tonight. We will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have no action items for tonight. We are on to the superintendent and staff reports. Superintendent Dr. Brads will update the fiscal year '24 budget. If anyone wishes to leave, they may leave at this time, except employees. They have to stay. They can't go. Thank you. Your turn.
Madam Chair, members of the board, just a very, very brief update for FY24 budget, where we stand as of today. As of today with the state, we have no changes, no updates, no new information from the Commonwealth, from the General Assembly. The General Assembly is scheduled to reconvene on Wednesday, April 12th, and that will take up some of what's called the veto session, the items that the governor vetoed, that they would take those up, and hopefully by then the conferees or budget negotiators will have something for both houses to look at in terms of an FY24 spending plan. So stay tuned. The county process continues. Their work session process has been completed. Next step for that process is a public hearing, which is set for April 18th here at 7 p.m. And then tentative, the Board of Supervisors would potentially, if depending on feedback and what have you, possibly approve the budget, which includes obviously the school board budget, on Tuesday, May the 2nd. And they would also approve not only the budget, but the tax rates at that time. So we'll sort of stay tuned until May 2nd. What our folks really want to know is then what happens next in light of not having a state budget. Well, unless something happens between now and then, we intend to tentatively be prepared to issue contracts the week of May 8th. And we've done this in the past, but we would issue contracts with the disclaimer that basically says subject to available funding. That means that we will honor our commitments, honor those contracts, but we have to have the state funding for that to happen. And the state, frankly, doesn't have to approve their budget until June 30th to be effective July 1. Though statutorily, the school board, as you know, has to do that in a different time frame. So does the County Board of Supervisors. So pending that state approval, pending the county approval, we would look at issuing contracts the week of May 8th, again with that caveat of subject to available funding. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the status of the '24 budget. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Dr. Bratz tonight? There are no questions, Dr. Bratz. Finance report, Mr. Shomo.
It's been a quick year. We're already on March 31st, which is a big month for us. As Dr. Brad said, if we had some calc tools, which we normally would get from 3/31, but everything's kind of on hold. But tonight's presentation, we're still looking at being slightly down in enrollment. So we're pushing forward to that 331 count with that in anticipation. The next ones we'll look at is the revenues. We're pretty much on track with revenues except for the hold harmless food tax adjustment that possibly could be in the state numbers, which is $400-some thousand. We still don't have any resolution to that, and it might be solved for us, which would be a good thing. But the things we can look at are the expenditures. Right now, if we go to the next slide, next one after that, you can see that we're tracking pretty even with all the previous years. All these numbers are at or below the last year. So right now, we're through 331, which we just kind of did today. We're still at projecting the balance of approximately $3 million with these expenditures. So that's a good thing. We're running a little bit behind on expenditures, been holding, waiting for the budgets to be finalized in Richmond, but some certain things we're going to soon probably go on and pull the trigger on to get rolling, so they'll be here by year end. But it's not a bad year for us from a standpoint of expenditures. We've been tracking just what we had projected, and we've got right now at the end of this budget, the numbers you see in front of you up there, we got 42% of the budget remaining to spend, which is about 1% more than last year. So you can see that we've been holding back until we found a little bit more from Richmond. So everything is cautiously going forward, and like I said, we're sitting here already in April, and we need to probably start moving on some of our year-end projects to get it done, so we'll have them in. And that's all I have basically for you tonight, except, like I said, we're trying to firm up and have some firm numbers as soon as some numbers come out of Richmond that we can actually put to the bank. Any questions?
Anyway, none, Mr. Shomo. Thank you
Okay,
so
thank you.
much. Thank you. Dr. O'Brien, operations report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Bratz. It's my honor to give you the Operations Department report for this month. Here we go. So first, starting with facilities and maintenance, we did some work on the CMS cooling tower. Of course, this provides the chill water that's used in our AC units. And just basically doing some maintenance, making sure that it's gonna stand the test of time, if you will, and prepare it for summer work as well as for the demands once we start getting into the cooling season. We did have a leak in CCHS where one of those same kind of chilled water pipes actually broke in First Hall, and it caused a little bit of damage to some ceiling tiles that we replaced, and we did some repairs to it. And you can see what those images look like once we did that. Some other items that we've done is you can read those. We've done a lot of TV installs over at Farmington. Work orders is about the same where we've been, 326, and that we've completed, and we have 345 new ones that came in. So our folks have been really busy, again, doing a lot of cleanup and getting things ready for the summer as we move ahead. We also completed the School Construction Assistance Program grant application for our CIP projects, and we've kind of finished that up today for the most part. Food service, you could take a look and see how our numbers are, which are pretty consistent with what we've had all year. We know that a la carte's been up a little more than the other meals that are in the count. Keep in mind, March, by the time I got the data, since this meeting was so close to when we pulled the data, March 30 and 31st aren't in that. So I did that calculation like I have been doing between our month to month, and you can see what the daily average looks like. So from February to March, the daily average is up on our food, the number of meals that we're providing. Technology, we're at 92% of the cameras that we've been installing, which has been a year-long process, and we hope to be done when we get by the end of the year, that all those new ones will be in place. We also got some new Chromebooks coming thanks to VPSA money. And you can see the tickets that were closed and the amount of Chromebook work orders that continue, as well as you might have saw back at the work session, we replaced those projectors in the CCHS studio just to make it a little nicer so you could see what was going on. Transportation, I have a lot of data to kind of share with you on transportation. First off, routing. Now that we're, coming into the final quarter, just kind of showing you how our routing shook out over the course of the year. Back at the beginning of the year, about 7,300 students we routed, and that includes some of those no-shows and some of those things where we just weren't sure if they were actually going to ride the bus or not. In September, that number was down to 5,600, close to 5,700, and then you can see it bounce back up in December, and now it's back down a little bit. Part of that is the ebb and flow of seasonal sports, because you get the fall teams playing, so that always cuts in the numbers that are riding, and now we have spring, and that kind of pulls it back down as well. Synovia, now, Synovia gives me a treasure trove of data that I can look at. And sometimes it's great and it's accurate, and sometimes I have to kind of massage the data to figure out exactly what it's telling me, what the summary is. More importantly, as you know, we went to the new GPS devices in our buses, and we made that transition since January 1st. So this data actually straddles January 1st, and as of March 30th is when I pulled the data that's in this window. So in terms of how we're doing, only 53% of our buses are on time, and that's based on what I call the arrival time. Now, that's not when school starts. That's the time that our routing software says the bus should be at CMS at, 7:48. If the bus is, well, that's too late, 7:38. If the bus isn't there at 7:38, then it kind of dings us. And that's why it tells you that we were on time 53%, but we were late 46% of the time. But when you go into that 46% and you actually dig into it, only 4.6, I know it's kind of close, is 5 minutes or later. So in other words, you'd be a minute late, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's going to say you're late. It doesn't matter if it's just a minute or two. And we're actually 1.42% early. And overall, our efficiency has a rating of 25% quicker, meaning that Synovia does the routes, but our drivers are finishing them 25% quicker than what Synovia says they should. And part of that is we still have some kids who just don't ride, and the drivers make adjustments on their routes to make them more efficient, even compared to Synovia, if that makes sense. And we have, to be perfectly honest with you, have ran into a lot of construction going on. I'm sure you've seen it around town, and it's really hampered some of our efforts to be on time as well. A lot of our drivers have struggled, especially here in town, where they can't get down the street, where they have to drop off 10 or 15 elementary kids. And I just watched this tape the other day. The driver's like, I got to drop these kids off. How am I going to do it? And they're like, you got to figure it out. Drop them off here. We can't drop them off here. They're elementary kids. So it has been quite a challenge with everything going on in the area. In terms of mileage, just which buses have the greatest daily miles on average, 132 does, 142 and 24. Those are long runs. You might know 24 is a Richardsville one that goes out to the far part of the county and does a lot of internal runs as well. And then 142 does a lot of transfers and field trips as well. So that's also taken into consideration as well. Our latest drop-offs is 128 and 49. So 49 is the western side, 128 is the far eastern side, and 41 is as well the far eastern side. 41 is Richards Ferry Road, so that one goes all the way out. So those are our latest drop-offs that we have. And then in terms of repairs, some things that we're doing to try to keep the fleet up is we've done some engine rebuilds and replacements for 2 of our buses, and we got in a Jasper engine to replace on bus 81 that our mechanics will do in-house, which saves us a lot of money in the long run. And we also did take custody of our 2 new diesel buses, finally, that were supposed to be here at the beginning of the year. So it's been a long, drawn-out process. However, we're thankful to get these 2 in. We're finishing up some of the DEMV tagging so that we can get them on the road and start replacing some of those older buses and also give us the extra space for some of those more crowded runs. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about our stop arm camera initiative. We now have more than a third of the fleet now has the stop arm cameras on the side, as well as all the extra cameras that are going in the internal parts of the bus. We talked a little bit about that last time, the fact that these cameras are now going to be web-based so that we could go in and pull it down versus having to exchange out tapes, which takes a lot of time. It's time-consuming and a little more problematic. So this is what our violations look like right now from bus patrol. You can see where we were in October with a high of 6, and then kind of, I would say, kind of evened out a little bit. We only have 1 in November, 1 in January, and then 4 in February. So we're just now starting to see that tick up. And based on the number of reports we get from our drivers, and that's that anecdotal that they call it in, we can anticipate that number is going to continue to climb throughout March once I get that tally as well. Any questions? No, that was a lot. Try to be quick too.
Are there any questions? Ms. Hutchins?
Could you go back to the last slide? The number of violations, that's all that we've had, 6?
Those are
And then
paid violations, yes.
Paid.
Yes. Mhm.
The ones who paid the fine for,
The ones that paid the fines for, remember, we
For
only
passing
had
the bus.
4 buses that were out actually with the camera,
okay,
that were out running. So, and that's the thing, we're more than quadrupling, tripling. I mean,
The
we're
coverage, yeah.
really gonna be having a lot more buses out there that have the cameras that are gonna catch those violators. And right now, I think I showed you the anecdotal report before, where there was like, I think 64
That's
violations of people reporting them.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying this number is gonna
It's gonna go,
spike
yep.
as we move on.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
Dr. Bratz?
Well, Dr. O'Brien, I would just, correct me if I'm wrong, but reiterate, this is a function of our previous camera system where we had, as you just said, 4, and I think one of those 4 was on a bus that was out of circulation for a while, so that took it down to actually 3. And again, these are citations that were made and confirmed by the company and then verified by local law enforcement with the partnership we have with the Sheriff's Department and the Commonwealth Attorney to make this happen. And the fact that if you, Dr. O'Brien, if you'll go back a couple slides to the 2 new diesels,
Yes, sir.
look closely on that side, on that stop arm side. When they came in new, we put the cameras on right away. So they'll get deployed into the fleet with the new camera system. And it used to be kind of a rarity to see one of our buses out and about with the camera on it. Now, you will notice if we are up to 1/3 of the fleet, this is becoming much more prevalent, okay? Not because we're all excited about people paying fines. No, we're excited about this being out there to discourage people from passing our school buses. Because as Dr. O'Brien has presented before, the anecdotal, driver reported, having to have the driver go to court, all of that, far exceeds these numbers that you're seeing here. So, Ms. Hutchins, thank you for asking that question. That slide doesn't say, well, we don't have a problem. We do have a problem with the very few cameras that were in play at that time. So, sorry to go on about that, but we're very excited about full fleet deployment of these stop arm cameras. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. Ms. Smith?
This is not a question, but I just want to say, looking at the on time and late, I would really say we're about 97% on time when you say less than 5 minutes, because you really can't be early. Because if you're early, folks
Then it
miss their
gets
bus.
dinged on the other side. Yeah.
Right. They miss their
Yeah.
bus and they're upset with us. So I think that's remarkable.
Thank you. And I would also say that, again, Synovia we're learning that system, especially with the new GPS devices and the new tablets, and the drivers have been trained, but there's still, I would say, idiosyncrasies with how they work sometimes, that they end up registering a wrong route, and that causes time issues as well. So trying to get all that to link up correctly can be a little challenging. So again, I wanted to present this data to say that we have this data, and we know with certainty that this is what we're getting from the system. But you could probably talk to parents, community members, and they could probably tell you, again, how they think buses are doing, and administrators, and I've heard a lot of positive things, especially over the last semester.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much, Dr. O'Brien.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Board member comments, a report, well, our comments. Ms. Burnett?
I just wanted to say congratulations to our 30, 35, and 45-plus year employees, and we didn't mention that they're retiring, they're actually staying on after serving this many years. So this is incredible. Thank you for being in our schools. Really appreciate that. And thank you to Riley for presenting tonight. You did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Ms. Desley?
Good evening. Roddy, you did a great job. It's not easy to get up here even with kind of a quiet, I think that makes it even worse when it's really quiet, right? So you did a great job, and we appreciate you taking on and being, participating and trying to help make the schools better. So thank you for that. Other than that, I had the pleasure of getting to go see Cinderella with my granddaughter this weekend to play, and it was wonderful, and it was heartwarming to see all the kids and all the excitement and how everybody was included in it, and all the way down to every tech person was celebrated, and it was great. So thank you so much.
Mrs. Luckenbill?
Have a nice spring break next week. Everybody, enjoy it.
Ms. Smith?
Really just ditto. Thank you, Riley, and to our staff, thank you for all you do. And I'm excited when we have productions as we did this weekend, and the quality of everything that our fine arts does and that our programs do. So just thank you to our staff for that.
Mrs. Hutchins?
I think Ms. Lawhorn has got her place in heaven set. 47 years driving a bus. Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. Thank you to all those folks who have decided to stay with us for all those years. Your experience and expertise means a lot. I attended the Pearl Sample 50th celebration this past weekend, which was well attended by a lot of current and previous employees and administrators of Pearl Sample. It was great to see everybody and to see the students perform as well. Cinderella was magnificent, just exciting the set was fantastic. I don't know who built it, but it was fabulous. And the students did a great job in that performance. Also participated previously in March with the mock interviews, which is always interesting. Of course, that's with Career Partners, and we appreciate that partnership. Hearing from the students and going through the interview process for many
It's a first time, and it's a new experience and enjoyable on my part. I'm not so sure on their part. Sometimes they leave very nervous, but come very nervous and still leave. And then I want to thank all the staff for everything they're doing, particularly at this time of year. It's very, very busy. We're coming down the stretch now, and we appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
I could repeat everything that was said along the line, because from Riley all the way through, it's certainly true. What I'd like to say is that the emphasis on safety with the cameras that we're putting in buildings and on our buses to make sure the children are safe is certainly good. The students participating has been fabulous. We have a whole spring of every kind of concert, choir, band, every kind of elementary, anything. There's plenty out there for the public to go see and do and enjoy what is really our future in this community by the children. The other thing I'd like to say is I appreciate the professionalism of all the people that work in the county, especially after spring break, when the children might not be quite as ecstatic to be there, and yet the pressures that are on the staff for the children to produce and educational testing and anything else that goes on, it's a balance, and it's a very hard time of the year that everybody gets through every year and then looks back and says, I don't know how I did it. So thank you, and have a extraordinary spring break, and hope the weather cooperates so that you have good days wherever you're at, here or wherever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I guess I'll just say Happy Easter to everybody, and have a great spring break. All right, and now we will move on to information items. The summary of our committee reports are on board docs, as well as our membership for February and March of 2023. Employee Appreciation Week, Volunteer Week is April 17th through 21st. Employee Appreciation Week for our library staff, April 24th through 28th. For our administrative professionals, April 24th through 28th. And for our teachers, curriculum specialists, and paraeducators, May 1st through 5th. And Employee Appreciation Week for our nurses will be May 8th through 12th. The future meetings are listed with our next capital planning on April 5th, administration April 18th, and the business work session April 24th. Back to finance on May 8th, and our regular board meeting on May 8th. If there is no other business, I would take a motion for adjournment.
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. For all those reports, I would have beaten me.